Hello, everyone. This is Nick DiVirgilio, and you are listening to Sonic Perspectives.
Hello everyone, this is Scott Medina for Sonic Perspectives. Today we get to talk with Nick DiVirgilio on the cusp of releasing his brand new solo album. Yes, you heard right, solo album called Invisible. It's coming out at the end of June, and really can't wait to dig into this album with you, Nick. Hey, welcome.
Thank you very much for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah, this is great. So this is a concept album, yes?
It is. It is a story record.
Yeah, so tell us where this theme started germinating for you about the Invisible Man.
Well, it's sort of a weird story, but the original impetus was when I got my gig with Cirque du Soleil. I started that gig and did about 6 or 8 weeks of rehearsal, and then when we actually went to go start rehearsing for the main show in the tent, I found out at that point I was going to be in a booth behind the stage. No one was going to be able to see me play. They'd hear me, but no one would see me. And for the first little bit, it really irked me. And I thought I was just like, I'm invisible. Anybody could be back here. You know, what's going on? And that has nothing to do with the story of the record. But that's what the first thing that came to my mind when that happened. So in my booth, I set up my drums, and I should say at the beginning, it ended up being one of the best experiences of my whole life. It was great. And I got over that stupid feeling pretty quickly. But, you know, at the beginning, it got to me. So basically, I just set up my booth, and while on downtime in there, I would just write songs because I set up my little room with a little recording interface, and my acoustic guitar was there. And I would just start writing songs and riffs and things like that. And that's where the word first came from. And then over time, I started just getting some more tunes together. And it wasn't until way after Cirque, that was probably, the first songs probably came about around 2012. So they've been around for a while. And then after I got to Sweetwater, I started fleshing out the idea more. And my friend and co-producer of the record, Mark Hornsby, sort of kicked me in the butt and said, man, you need to finish this record. And that's kind of where it all came from. Then I took the word invisible and sort of morphed it into more of a story about someone who was, disgruntled with his life, not happy about where he ended up, feels like an invisible person could die tomorrow, no one would miss him, dead-end job, that kind of thing. And he goes out to find the meaning of his life, and in the end, he finds it.
Mm-hmm. And would you say there's aspects of this story that are somewhat autobiographical?
A little bit, but not really. It is more of a story it's more fiction, but I did sprinkle a little bit of some of my own adventures throughout. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Had you not seen the Cirque du Soleil before you signed on to play at?
No, I had, and believe me, I needed the job. So it wasn't like, I wasn't going to quit just because I was playing in a drum booth. But I had seen a bunch of Cirque shows before, especially in Vegas and stuff, and you always see the band. They're not the focal point. The acrobats and the people on stage are the music is there to support them. Mm-hmm. And I knew that going in for sure. But you usually do see the musicians either off into the side or somewhere, in the show. And I was the only one in the band that you couldn't see in this show. The band was behind these reeds. It's not like they were totally in plain sight the whole time. But you knew they were there, and the band could see the stage directly. I had to watch the show through a computer, a TV monitor, that kind of thing.
Right.
So, yes, to answer your question, I had seen Cirque shows before. I just didn't know no one had told me that until the first day of rehearsal, like the real rehearsal started. That's where I'd be playing. Anyway.
That was in the fine print that I guess you didn't get to reading.
Exactly.
Man, yeah. Well, yeah, I could imagine that's a big hurdle, especially, being someone who's used to performing out on rock and roll stages and such. But I'm glad, hey, you made something out of it with the germ of the idea for Invisible.
You bet.
Yeah, yeah. So there's a really wide range of styles here on this album. And I've already heard you somewhat apologetically tell people, well, this isn't a prog album. But how did you choose which direction to go stylistically? I mean, is this the kind of music that Nick DiVirgilio truly likes the most?
Well, no, I wouldn't say it. I wouldn't put it that way. Every song has a specific purpose and a vibe to fit the story, really. Wasn't really thinking style as much as does this particular vibe with the tune and the feel and the beat and all of those kinds of things go with what I'm trying to say. So that sort of was that pulled me down certain directions. Mm-hmm. I can't get away from the prog completely. I don't want to, but I just call this record more of a rock record in the grand scheme of it all. It has its technical moments for sure, but it has some really straight ahead stuff too, and ballads and the whole 9 yards. And I just wanted to fit the songs to the story, no matter what style they kind of came to be. I don't want people to get the wrong idea that they're so wide varied that it's completely different from tune to tune. I mean, it sort of is, but it's not like you're going to get like a polka next to a prog tune, next to a country tune, next to a jazz song. It's all kind of based around rock and roll, I think.
Exactly, yeah. I think of it as a rock album too, but there are some wonderful ballads on it. I really love the opening, first proper song of the title track, Invisible. That's just so beautifully done with the acoustic vibe and Jonas Reingold and the fretless bass, and and then the way the strings just close that song out. It's just gorgeous in that. And let's talk about that use of strings and brass, because you recorded those at Abbey Road Studio, yeah? I
did. Totally spoiled to be able to do something like that. Mm-hmm. The reason that happened was because we had a lot of this record happened because of my job at Sweetwater. The record happened the way it did because of my job at Sweetwater. Mm-hmm. We had a bunch of great vendor partners come on board with this record, especially drum companies, but also the microphone company DPA. And that gave us the ability to afford to be able to go to Abbey Road and record the strings and brass there. Mark had gone over there to do a bunch of other sessions, had a good relationship with the people there, and DPA wanted to be involved as well. After we did that session at Abbey Road, we went to the DPA factory in Denmark afterwards and did a big factory tour and shot video of that. So there was reasons to go over there, but it was just an amazing experience to get those players and that room on my record. It's just incredible stuff.
Yeah, I was listening to Mark Hornsby talk about it on that interview you did with DPA, and he said that they didn't have to add any reverb or anything from the strings in the recording of the room.
No, man, that room, it's just amazing. It's the history in there. You feel it as you walk in. It's incredible.
Yeah. Well, what's really unique in this is that, you've got a symphonic prelude that starts the album, okay, but then throughout the album, in the majority of the songs, you're weaving in those strings and brass, which really, right alongside the rock instrumentation. So it really makes for unique arrangements.
Yeah, John Hinchy arranged some of the horn and string parts with me, and he's a friend of the band and friend of the prog world. He's a trombone player by trade, but he's been involved in a bunch of other projects that I've worked on over the years, rewiring Genesis and all those kinds of things. And, he gets this kind of music, and he's got a great ear for this and knows how to arrange for every instrument in the orchestra, which is a huge and amazing gift for anybody to have, to know how instruments fit and arrange and where they're going to sound best in a song and all that kind of stuff. And he helped out quite a bit to fit those parts into the songs.
Mm-hmm. And you've got those sessions happening at Abbey Road, and then you've got the main recording happening at Sweetwater Studios. I mean, it really sounds like just the ultimate recording package.
It's pretty amazing. Yeah, Sweetwater's a great studio, killer room, Russ Berger designed, sounds great, and we do just about anything there, And so it's definitely a great combination sonically, for sure.
Plus, you got all those drums at your disposal. I see you're even releasing a drum booklet to accompany the album, detailing exactly what you play and why you chose it for each track.
Right. Yeah, that's how this record happened. Is the drum vent? We got most all the drum vendors that we work with at Sweetwater to come on board and to, show how they can all play in the same sandbox, so to speak, and the differences in the sound and the vibe and the feeling of each drum kit and how they're made and how they fit into a sonic spectrum, So I was able to mold the sound of each tune to the exact drum sound I wanted. Mm-hmm. And it was a really neat process because, I've been at Sweetwater for about 5.5, 6 years now, and I've been really blessed to be able to get to know these drum vendors and the companies and how they make drums and their theory behind stuff and why they sound the way they do. And it was really neat to be able to mold that sound to real exact specifications to each song.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sort of like a mad scientist sort of thing in there.
Yeah.
So people listening to it will really get to hear cool vibes and different changes sonically from tune to tune. And so, yeah, the drum book was a necessary thing to basically give thanks to all of these companies for coming on board with this and to show off their great gear. They make amazing products. And so I wanted it's the least we could do. Plus there's videos coming along with all the songs that have drums as well.
Mm. Well, and it's just so unique. It's such an unusual thing to do. It makes the album stand out in a really unique way. Like everyone knows, oh yeah, Nick, he's that killer drummer. But now, I mean, it's not a drummer's album per se. It's a rock album, but you get to really feature the drums in a very unique way.
Sure. Yeah, you bet.
Yeah.
Very lucky to do so.
Right, and there's. But in addition to drums, you're playing a wide range of instruments throughout this album, including bass as well. And like Wrong Place, Wrong Time is pretty much all you, except the guitar solo from Randy McStein.
Right. I only wanted one tune where I played everything. I do play drum. I play rhythm guitar on a bunch of stuff and some bass on a bunch of it and a few key parts. And I programmed some of the loops and different other things like that throughout the record. But I definitely wanted to take advantage of some of these amazing guests and friends of mine to play on the record as well. So I just picked that one tune you mentioned to play everything, and had Randy come in to do just this stupidly cool guitar solo. The guy's an amazing musician. He's so good. So that was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I'm not really a soloist anyway, especially on guitar. I've never studied it or really learned how to solo correctly. There's so many other people that do it. Mm-hmm. Just incredibly well. Although I feel I'm a decent and a very capable rhythm guitar player. I could play riffs and things like that. So that's where I kind of went with my strengths.
Absolutely. Yeah. And the other killer Randy solo, one of them is on Mercy with, it's just peak solo there with Tony Levin playing his classic groove on the stick.
Yeah.
Yeah, that just gives you chills, huh?
Yeah, it does for sure.
Was that the first time you played with or recorded with Tony?
No. What happened was a couple of the songs on the record, Snake Oil Salesman and In My Bones, and the first single, Where's the Passion, all stemmed from these recording workshops that we'd have at Sweetwater. Like Where's the Passion was a Jordan Rudess recording workshop, and I was lucky enough to have you play my song for the recording workshop. Mm. And same one for In My Bones, Rick Nielsen from Cheap Trick was coming to do a recording workshop. We used one of my tunes. Mm. And Snake Oil Salesman was a recording workshop that Tony Levin was on. So, I mean, I really lucked out to being in the right place at the right time for these certain things. And lucky enough to have the guys come, teach people how to record, how they do their thing, and then I get a really great track out of it too. So it's win-win all the way around for sure.
Yeah, also, I'm really happy for you. You had the material right there for it. Wow.
Yeah, so the first time, Snake Oil Salesman was the first one that I got to play with Tony on, which was an amazing thing. He's just incredible, right? All the stuff he's done, and the sound. He could play anything, and he's got such a great feel. So, and Snake Oil Salesman is pretty much just more of a straight ahead tune. Mercy, I'll say this, and I'm trying to be as humble as possible here. I send him the whole tune to play on because I play bass on half of that song, like on the faster, rockier parts, and he plays his stick on the choruses and fretless on the sort of breakdown part. Mm-hmm. And I asked him to play the whole tune, of course, and he writes back and he says he couldn't improve on the bass that's already there. I go, wait, come on, man. You're Tony Levin. Of course you can. Give me a break. But he told me, he said, dude, just keep what you have. It's great. I'll play the other parts. And that's how it works. So we're both playing bass on that tune.
Yeah.
And so when we first heard back what he sent us on the chorus, when I heard that stick come in, I was through the roof with excitement. That's the Tony Levin sound, right? It's just incredible. Yeah. So just, those little touches added so much cool flavor to the record.
Nice. How did the choice to cover the song Money come about?
I've always dug that tune. I don't know why. The original version, Barrett Strong, the Beatles did a great version. There was a couple of funky versions in the 80s. And then that song came along when I was trying to think about the story in general. Like, what's this person going to be doing when they give up on their dead-end job and they want to just the guy decides to just let it all go. Forget it. He quits, just walks out the door one day from his job and decides to go find himself. So as he's walking around town, he starts meeting people and going through these sort of little adventures, I'm calling them, of realizing that he's not really the only one that feels the way he does. He finds that out rather quickly. So Money, basically my thought process was, he's walking down the street and decides like maybe he's thirsty or something. So he goes into a convenience store to grab something to drink, and he sees the person behind the counter and they just look disheveled or depressed or don't want to be there, that kind of thing. And he asks something like, well, is everything okay? And then they spew out this whole thing of why they're there. They're stuck there because of the money. They can't get out from underneath what they want to do. And sort of the similar thing to what he was feeling. So that was my thought process behind it.
Yeah.
It kind of stemmed from that opening little drum groove was a loop I had found somewhere. And it's just slowly morphed out of that into the whole song.
Most people will know that song, obviously from the Beatles. And so it had that nice tie-in to the Abbey Road and the Beatles, and at least in that way. Is there any other tie-in to the Beatles for you or anything else on Abbey Road here from recording there?
Well, just being there, knowing all the amazing music that they recorded in that room, Yeah. There's the old pianos that they all played on. There's still cigarette burns from cigarettes that John Lennon would put on the side of the upright piano. All the stuff is there. They haven't changed the room at all since they recorded there in the 60s. The control room where the technology is obviously upgraded since then and all that stuff. But the actual main room is exactly the same. They haven't painted it. They haven't taken out any of the diffusers or all those kinds of things. So the vibe is still exactly that.
Man, what a thrill.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also love the backup vocals on this album. You're, of course, you do backup vocals as well, but you've got some women, including your daughter, singing, and it's just particularly strong backup singing. You got one track, it's kind of a Steely Dan thing, and another one that kind of sounds like Pink Floyd backup singers a bit. Did you work out all of those parts, or how did that come about?
Yeah, most of the parts I had made up, and kind of sussed out before we got the girls and boys in there to help sing. So I kind of knew what was going on there ahead of time. But once we were in the studio working on the songs, a few things morphed here and there, and tried to go with whoever's strengths were singing. But yeah, it was cool. It was great to have my daughter Sophia. Anthony sang on one song. My son sang on one track as well. So it was really great to have them involved in any way I could get them.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And I'm a huge fan of background vocals too. So the more the merrier. It's great to hear other voices.
Exactly. Yeah, I was. What was it? I think it was the last Cruise to the Edge when Unique was playing, and you had your daughter come out and sing, and I remember that really blew everybody away.
Yeah, it's cool, man. She's got a really great voice.
Yeah. So with the storyline in Invisible, how much does this kind of story of disillusion with life and redemption, is there any connection there with from your connection with Neil Morse and the way that he's worked similar terrain in his storylines? Like I was really sensing in the track "I Know the Way" that closes it, a sense of revelation almost.
Yeah, I don't think it comes directly out of that. It's definitely. My guy sort of goes through a near-death experience. That's where "Wrong Place, Wrong Time" is the song. That's what that song is about. Mm-hmm. And so I did a bunch of research and study up on those things and found that a lot of people that come back from those things have the same feeling that, they saw the light. Somebody, say it's God, however you want to describe it, says, your time on earth is not over yet. You haven't achieved, I'm not done with you yet, so to speak, right?
Right.
And that's where that came from. So, yeah, realizing that you're not alone. And that was the biggest thing I wanted. The biggest sort of moral of the story I wanted to come out of this thing is that we all have some worth. I've believed that forever. And that's sort of what I wanted to get across, that no matter how small it is, we're all here for something. We're so, I don't know, trained is not the right word, but, you grew up believing that if you're not a huge star or famous or rich or something like that, your life wasn't necessarily worth it, or you're not as good as someone else. But it doesn't matter what it is. Just we're all here to touch someone else in some way. And you don't know what you doing the smallest thing, how that could help somebody down the line, or how much you've touched a person by just doing the littlest thing, right? So, and that's what life's all about. So we all have worth, whether it's big or small or in the middle.
Yeah, and so voicing this story through Invisible now, it's been it's been about 10 years, I think, since your last EP came out, Pieces, and then about 10 years, more or less, before your first full-length solo album, Karma. And where are you in terms of your songwriting now? Is this really energizing you, having put this whole album together, and you'd like to write more? I see you've gotten some writing credits starting with Big Big Train as well. And do you think there'll be more solo material, or is this kind of a good thing, just whenever the inspiration strikes that you'll go for it?
No. I mean, yeah, I'm going to be doing a lot more. This is sort of my time to get this part of my career happening, although I'm doing it way late. It's just I was always in bands and doing the band thing for so long, and raising a family and doing all those kinds of things. It just never took precedent to do the solo artist thing as much as I've always really wanted to. I also don't think that I was at a level where I felt confident enough to do the solo artist thing. Till, I don't know, maybe not right now, but it just took me a while to get here. So now that this record's done, and I've done the concept record double LP sort of long thing, I'm definitely going to be writing a lot more. And the plan is to put out a lot more of my own music over the next, 10 years. So you're going to see and hear a lot more of me on my own as time goes on.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah, I got a ton of music in the can, lots of song ideas, and you're right. I'm writing for Big Big Train a bit here and there, which is fantastic. Love that band so much, and talking to Randy McStein about doing some other stuff on the side there. So I'm really starting to dive into writing a lot more and just sort of bring my voice out like I just haven't done before. So
right. So it sounds like that. With that being your main focus, I mean, you're not looking out to go on to being a touring drummer with another band, it sounds like, in the future, if that came up.
Well, no, I'm not going to say I'm not going to do anything. I'm going to, everything's open, especially in this time with all this coronavirus and all the crazy stuff going on, and
sure,
the way life is. I mean, thankfully, I still have a job at Sweetwater. I'm very, very blessed to have that in this particular moment. Mm-hmm. But if an opportunity comes, that's going to be worth it. Sure, I'm not going to turn anything down, but I'm going to focus. Big Big Train is a huge focus for me. The band is really achieving a certain level now, and we've been working really hard for a long time. So I'm in for the long haul with Big Big Train for sure, and as well as my solo stuff. So I got a bunch of irons in the fire.
Yeah. I know Big Big Train was going to make their debut in the U.S. this spring, and sounds like they just officially canceled the summer UK gigs. And I know it's been a long time coming to get them over to the States. So do you think if the coronavirus issues lift in the next few months or latter part of this year, do you think the Train will give it another go next spring?
Oh, we're definitely going to do it for sure. When that happens and when the shows get booked, I can't really say because I don't know. But no, we're not stopping here for sure. It took us a long time, and it was a lot of hard work just to get that little tour booked.
Right.
And everybody was hugely disappointed when it didn't happen. So it's just postponed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
And you mentioned working with Randy a little more. Would that be in the context of the Fringe or maybe other things?
Maybe, yeah. We're talking to Jonas. Yeah, exactly. So maybe another Fringe record coming down the pipe, and Randy and I are always sending stuff back and forth with all kinds of different ideas in mind. So for sure, any chance to play with Randy and Jonas again, I'll jump at.
Yeah, sweet. I mean, that was a fantastic debut CD, so it'd be great to see something more come from that. And of course, he plays some great role. Well, they both do. Both Randy and Jonas play some killer parts on your new album too, which is really cool.
Yeah, those two guys are two of my favorite musicians of all time, and I had to have them as much as I could get them, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, when you were with Cirque, how many shows approximately did you end up doing with them?
My tally at the end was 1,426. Now, that's just the shows. That doesn't include all the dress rehearsals and everything else. So you probably add another, at least a couple hundred on top of that. The amount of times we actually rehearsed and did the show that wasn't an official count,
Right.
where there was audience
Right.
in the seats, that kind of thing.
Right.
So yeah, a lot. Definitely a lot.
And what's it like for you doing that many performances of the same show compared to being in a touring band? I mean, how do you keep that from getting stale?
Well, it's kind of tough, but you just go with it. I mean, once we were into it, you're part of a huge production every day, and then you definitely have to stay on your toes with a show like that too, because you're playing to the performers on stage. Mm. So, like, if they make a mistake and have to redo a trick, you have to skip back and do that part of the music again, and you're all locked to computers and everything like that, so you have to manipulate the computers in real time to follow the people on stage. So there's a lot to it, so you got to be on your toes. And thankfully for me, as much as I say at the beginning I was pissed about playing in the booth and all that kind of stuff, the show that I was in, Totem, was a very drum heavy show. It's based around sort of native Indian, Native American, Canadian sort of themes,
Mm-hmm.
So it was lots of drums and percussion. And I got to play pretty hard. Mm-hmm. I was in the best shape of my life after a couple of years of being in that show, playing 10 shows a week and, exercising all the time and being around all these amazing athletes. It ended up being a really super cool thing. And, some nights you play great, some nights you didn't play as great. But you just, it's part of the whole thing. It becomes a job, but you're still playing music every night. So it's a better job than some.
Yeah, and what's the vibe like behind the curtain in Cirque? Is it an inspiring atmosphere, or like? Oh yeah, most people don't have any idea what that would be like.
Yeah, it's an incredible atmosphere. I mean, because we were traveling with people from 160 people touring in just our team. That includes everybody from people who sell the tickets to sell the merch and the refreshments, to all the administration and our catering staff and our trainers and wardrobe people, and plus all the entertainers, crew, all of that stuff. So we were with people from 19 countries, all those different languages. My kids got to travel the world with us and learn these different languages, these different cultures, and just become friends with all these people. And these are serious athletes that are on stage doing these things. Incredible. These are like full-on Olympic athletes. They were, formerly on the Olympic team of their country, and now they're doing, these things for a Cirque show.
Yeah.
So that atmosphere is there's nothing else that I know of quite like it. And then put that together with all the music and the smoke and the pomp and circumstance and the technology that goes into it. It's an amazing thing.
Yeah. Well, I'm really glad for you and your family to have that experience. Sounds incredible.
It was pretty neat, man.
Yeah. Yeah. So you've played on drums on hundreds, or if not thousands, of recordings over the past few decades. What are a couple of your favorites that our listeners may not be aware of?
That's a wonder. Let me see. I always go back and really enjoy listening to the Mike Keneally record, Dog. Mm-hmm. If nobody's ever heard that Mike Keneally, or they don't know who he is, one of the greatest guitar player, keyboard players, musicians ever. Amazing guy. And so prolific of a songwriter. Talk about a guy who's just has music oozing out of him all the time. Mm-hmm. I knew all those guys for quite a long time. I met Mike through Kevin Gilbert way back when, and always wanted the opportunity to try and play with him because he always has the best musicians surrounding him. You have to be at a certain level to be able to just even play with Mike. Although he can play any style of music, just you got to be up there. Mm-hmm. And so I've always tried to make myself think of myself as that higher echelon sort of player that can play in any situation, or at least try to. And the opportunity came to join his band one time, and I jumped at it with my friend Rick Musalam and Brian Beller and Mike, and we toured for the dancing record, and then the time came to make a new record, and it's called Dog. And so there's a bunch of really cool moments on that record for me that I really enjoy. Especially, I think it's the first track called Louie is one of my favorite tunes we ever did. Really heavy, and it was always a real challenge to play for Mike. He comes from that Frank Zappa school, and you just got to know your stuff when you're playing with him, and try to make it groovy and fun and all of those kinds of things. So that was a great experience. Very educational, lots of fun, great guys, became really good friends with everybody. And so that's one of my cool drumming experiences that I really enjoy.
So everyone be sure to check out that album Dog if you haven't already. So I know with the current situation, obviously you don't have any gigs right on the books right now, but the album is coming out nonetheless in end of June. What else do you have planned, hopefully, to happen on your calendar in the coming year or so, or what ideas do you have to be bringing this album out more?
Well, I'm going to try to figure out. Well, first, just building up to getting the record released. There's a lot into putting out records these days. Just like keeping up with all the the bells and whistles of social media and trying to engage everybody. And there's a lot of competition for people's attention. So you got to try and it's just tough to stay on top of it all. Thankfully, I've got some really good friends and people helping me out with this. So I'm trying to learn as I go with that and do the best I can just to get the record out first. But then I'm going to try, definitely, I don't want to put the record out and never perform it. So got to see how the next few months come together, and I'm going to try and figure out a way to get out there and actually play this, whether I have to stream it online or do it in front of people, hopefully, which I want to do, obviously. Figure out a way to do this live and see how that goes. Big Train's going to be in the studio. Since all the touring stuff got canceled, we're going to start working on a new record.
Nice. To
put out sometime next year, I think. But we're going to start recording in November. So that's coming up. When it'll be released, I don't exactly know. But so another Big Train release, working on that. And that's about it. Plus still, the gig at Sweetwater, still
sure
full time with that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And you doing okay on the home front through all of this?
Oh, yeah. Thankfully, I got a place to play here. Family's all doing well. And kids are, finished school for the year. Tiffany's working at the hospital, and she's staying healthy, thankfully, through all of that. So, yeah, it's all good.
All right, Nick, thanks so much. Take care, and we look forward to seeing you back out there, and good luck on the release of this album.
All right, buddy. Thank you so much for the time.
All right, thank you.